This is the Cross Keys in Redgrave in Suffolk. The couple who ran this place from the summer of '97, it was a dream come true. Their own idyllic little pub in a picture postcard English village. Marilyn Garside bought it with some redundancy money, but not long after she and her husband Jim moved in here, their marriage started to turn sour. The chain of events that followed led to murder. Marilyn and Jim had long had a difficult relationship, but at first the pub seemed to bring them together as she'd hoped.
But we moved music to the past, didn't we?
Yeah.
And, you know, we really like it.
I started working here about 4 years ago as a barmaid. They were really nice and they really looked after me. He was a womaniser. He thought he could have any woman he wanted. He tried it on with most women who came into the pub and just made a fool out of himself.
You've been acting like a right tart all night.
If you've got something to say to me, don't say it in front of the customers.
The pub was dead after that. The trade went down and it was a real shame.
When the regulars stopped coming, money got tight and the Garsides took a lodger.
There's just no room for anything.
I had no idea what I was walking into and wish I'd not gone in there now. He started off being nice, thanking me, welcoming me, thanking me for what I was doing around the pub and the flat. And then he started being rude and started coming on to me and started threatening me. He said I was his woman.
You ain't here just to clean glasses, darling.
He told her about us on Christmas Day. He said, Lynn, I want you for love and security, and Therese, I want you for sex.
Marilyn was aware of her husband's philandering. Her hopes for the marriage were being crushed.
Lynn stayed here because she was scared of him and she knew deep down what he would do to her if she did leave.
He kept repeating, I could shoot her like a rabbit. Real hate in his voice.
Eventually, Lynn did pluck up the courage to leave, and Jim seemed fairly relaxed about it. The pub was sold and Lynn went back to Essex to live with her son and daughter. A few weeks later, Jim moved in with another woman. Lynn planned a divorce, and she agreed to give him half the proceeds from the pub.
She was much happier since she'd come back from the pub. She was back to her old self and laughing and joking, and she was so full of life again, knowing that he was out of her life, so to speak.
Once back in Essex, Marilyn visited her mum every day.
Sorry I'm late, Mum.
Well, it was so nice to have her back to help me, and I was coping, but I couldn't do the housework.
Don't you want your tea? Oh, leave it till later. Jim just rang, wanting to know where I was.
Oh, yeah.
What do you reckon on that?
Oh, I like that.
Can I help you?
Oh, Lynn! Lynn!
As I drove down the road, it was like something out of a movie scene. There were flashing lights everywhere, people had lined the streets, and I thought, oh my God, what has gone on? And I obviously thought the worst at that stage, but I don't suppose anything could have prepared me for what the worst was.
You all right?
Yes, thank you.
Did you see who did it?
I saw him, but I didn't see his face.
No? Which way did he go?
Well, through the gates.
Yeah, and which way did he go once he came through the gates?
I didn't see him then. Put your feet up.
It's devastating to see it happen to your own daughter and to hear it happening.
Jim turned up later that evening and he put his head in my nan's lap and it was just this wailing noise going on, and I was sitting to the side of him and I was just looking at him and I couldn't see one tear rolling down his face.
When I got to Lisa's, they told me.
What did they tell you?
They told me Lynn was dead. She was stabbed. That was it.
There was no signs of sympathy or empathy towards Marilyn at all, or any usual signs of grief.
I knew right from the beginning he was involved in it, from what she told me, but I wasn't allowed to say it because it was hearsay. But I knew what had happened. In my heart, I knew.
A week after Marilyn's murder, Jim took possession of her car, moved into her house in Romford and changed the locks to stop her son returning home.
Jim just decided to get rid of all my mum's possessions, all her clothing, just apparently put them into black sacks and threw them out.
Very soon it was apparent that Jim was behind the death of his wife. There was no other reason that we could fathom out for anyone wanting Marilyn dead other than Jim.
But Jim had a firm alibi.
I was out bowling in King's Lynn. I got a call from Lynn's son. He said, Mum's been attacked. I said, I'll be down straight away to the hospital.
We told Crimewatch exactly what we had, that we suspected that Jim was involved and that we were gathering evidence of his involvement in the case. But I still did not know who the killer was, so the programme was directed to assist me identifying the killer.
In an unusual twist, detectives hoped to set an elaborate trap for Jim. They planned to set up a bogus incident room in Norfolk, invite him to watch the programme there, and convince him the net was closing in. They hoped he'd panic and make contact with a hitman. But Jim was already getting rattled. Before Crimewatch went on air, he took a sudden trip to Alicante. As it happens, even without the trip planned by detectives, the programme turned up trumps.
The Crimewatch appeal was a great success. We had over 30 calls, but there was two real golden nuggets of information that come in. One was from a former wife of Jim's who we've not been able to track down. She was able to tell us in great detail the horrendous domestic violence she'd suffered at the hands of Jim, and this gave us evidence of Jim's previous violent behaviour towards women. But secondly, and more importantly, a solicitor contacted us.
My wife called out to me that the Cross Keys at Redgrave was on the television, and I recalled that I had seen Mrs. Garside. She came to see me and she discussed the fact that she was in an uncomfortable situation. It's unusual for someone to come in and say that they feel that they are being threatened with murder by their spouses, which she did say there were guns on the property and that she was concerned for her safety.
With all this new evidence, when Jim flew back from Spain, the police were waiting for him.
We were able to keep surveillance on him until we were satisfied where he was living, and then we arrested him.
Jim, it's the police.
We didn't charge him at that stage. We questioned him and we released him on bail. And that again was to try and attempt, now that he knew some of the evidence against him, whether he would lead us to the killer.
In fact, it was Jim's phone calls eventually led to his accomplice. The police worked out Jim had 3 phones and had given one to the killer.
We were able to track through the mobile phones a succession of calls from Jim to the killer of Marilyn.
Your wife's killer had the phone you'd been using the day before she was killed.
No comment.
We know that the killer had the phone in the area where Marilyn was murdered, and they thought that no one would be able to establish who had this phone. However, the killer made one fatal mistake, and the killer rang home, a short call to his home address, and through that I was able to establish Richard Bates was the killer of Marilyn Garside.
Richard Bates worked at Fisher's, a frozen food factory, and he had a set of knives for boning meat.
Richard Bates?
Yeah?
DC Galpin, this is DS Pryor. I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something you later rely on in court. Anything you do say will be given as evidence. Come with me, please.
So, who introduced you to Jim Garside?
Teresa. I used to work with Teresa at the factory. First time I met Jim, he came to the car park of Fisher's. I thought, that's nice.
The Mercedes had been stolen, and Jim persuaded Richard Bates to help him drive it to the continent where it was to be sold. It was during that 4-day drive to Greece that the 2 men plotted murder.
You conspired with Richard Bates to have your wife murdered?
No.
Richard Bates is skint. You manipulated him. You offered him money to be involved in the murder of your wife.
And there was more compelling evidence to come. Partial DNA found at the crime scene matched that of Richard Bates. The chain of events was now becoming clear. A week before Lynn's murder, Richard Bates went to her mum's house to plan it. Then on the day, he waited outside for her to arrive.
Hello, Jim.
Yeah?
She's not come. I've been waiting all afternoon. 12 o'clock you said she'd get here.
All right, I'll call you back.
Hello?
All right, where are you?
I'm in Romford shopping for new shoes. How you bearing up? All right?
Yeah, I'm all right, yeah.
Look, I'm late for Mum. I'll see you tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Sit tight. She's on her way.
Can I help you?
It's done.
In June, after a 3-month trial at the Old Bailey, Jim Garside and Richard Bates were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life. Jim Garside's conviction was an unusual case for Crimewatch because the police already had a prime suspect. But in this, as in every case, once the viewers ring in with information, it's up to the police to do the final legwork.
And they're pretty crafty, not to say ingenious. This is the National Police Training College, or Centrex, at Bram's Hill, and this is where they teach the craft. If you take surveillance, as we saw in the James Garside investigation, it's not a matter, as you see in the old movies, of just tailing someone and hiding behind a bush if he turns round. It's pretty sophisticated stuff.
There are scientists here, statisticians and crime analysts. Details of thousands of offences are stored together, so when there's a new one, instead of looking at it in isolation, they can detect patterns. And once they've found patterns, they can link crimes.
Then there's the science everyone's familiar with nowadays, forensics. They're their own team of independent scientists, but they've also got a database of experts in almost everything, from fibres to teeth, knives to knots, even funny walks. As in funny peculiar. Not only is the task here serious, it's often deadly serious.
This is Paul Dean. A Crimewatch viewer gave his name after our reconstruction of a killing, but police still had to prove he was the culprit. This is CCTV footage of him with a bike, walking beside another man, James Donson. That night, he robbed James, who died next day.
Give me all your money.
Oh, don't give me.
Now take another look at this CCTV. Look again, and again.
It showed a man who we're certain was James Donson, and walking alongside him, pushing a bike, was another man. We showed it at one of the briefings to the inquiry team, and one officer in particular said to me, "Boss, that guy's bow-legged." I've got to say that the footage was not of good quality, and I wasn't at all convinced at that stage. But when we started talking to people who knew Paul Dean, it became readily apparent that he had an unusual gait and that he had pronounced bow-leggedness.
Humberside Police contacted a foot specialist, Hayden Kelly.
When most of us walk down the street, we don't really give great consideration to how people are walking because we all assume that we're walking the same, but that's not strictly true. A person's walking style is unique to them, more so than a fingerprint. When first examining the tape, it doesn't appear to be anything unusual other than perhaps the tape is not the best quality and that perhaps the person on the right-hand side of the bicycle is walking in a slightly strange manner. Here we have a split screen showing the CCTV footage on the left-hand side and the same view of Paul Dean on some other video footage on the right-hand side. Initially, when you're viewing this, it may not be immediately apparent as to what the similarities are. But when we slow it down and we freeze frame the exact same phase of the walking cycle on both, we can clearly see the magnitude of the bow-leggedness.
A jury accepted the podiatrist's evidence. It helped put Paul Dean at the scene of the crime, and he's now serving 9 years for manslaughter.
Furlong and a half to go. 1
One flight to jump, just Beth and Boo Sally and the two vying for the lead. There's Boo Sally now drawing clear by about 4 lengths, and Boo Sally goes on to score. Boo Sally wins, just Beth second, and well strung out.
Living the high life takes money, lots of money. And this is the story of one woman who insisted on living the high life, even though she couldn't afford it. Her name is Lynn Wright, and she blew thousands of pounds on horses, cars, champagne, jewellery, money that belonged to her friends. But extravagance, as Lynn found out, always comes at a price.
In front here on the run to the second flight, Jericho by a couple of lengths to the change of colours, left right.
£20 on the nose, please. Cheers.
When you think of your pension, what you get, it's nothing, is it? So when I went to work, I used to put money in the bank for when we were retired, so we'd have a little bit of money. And that was it. Now she's got 2,000 of it.
Oh, she knew it was money that I'd put away, that it was mine, my little secret, my little nest egg. She knew that.
Why did she do it to me? I don't think I'll ever get an answer. The answer I want from her, because I think that if she did tell me, she'd lie, because she's lied before.
Lynn Wright was a wealthy man's daughter. He owned a local scrap dealer's business. When her father died, she was left a considerable amount of money. She then lived the lifestyle of the rich and famous. I've been told that she hired a private plane, would think nothing of jetting off to a horse racing meeting with some friends, and she'd pay for it.
Lynn used a personalised plate, but she never paid for it because she'd soon spent all her inheritance. She and her husband were declared bankrupt, but Lynn came up with a scam to get more money.
The interest rates are staying the same.
Oh, yeah.
I told you that, didn't I?
She has got no professional qualifications in the investment field whatsoever, but she was very persuasive and people believed in her. Her father had a knowledge of the stock market, and that's where I think she got her knowledge from.
It was Lynn's GP who first complained to the police. Lynn had persuaded him to give her $5,000 to put on the Amsterdam market. He knew her well, but now he suspected he'd been conned. He explained how Lynn had asked that his wife should pay for the investment in cash.
Hi, love, you all right? Got it then. Just £5 yeah? Great. Let's get it out there, babe. Doing you a big favour. There'll be a lot more than that back. See you later.
On one occasion, the doctor told me that he was on the telephone talking to Mrs. Wright, and she told him that she was in Chesterfield.
Where are you? Well, I'm away in Chesterfield with Jack. He says your shares are on the up.
Do you know when I'm going to get my share certificates?
I don't really have the details at the moment with me. When I get back, I'll give you a call.
But he drove past her in the street in Wrexham. Once the GP had been made a complaint, other members of the public heard about what was going on and came to the police station and made further complaints.
I don't know much about Lynn herself, but I knew her father very well.
We went to a funeral, and the week afterwards, she just started eventually in the conversation saying that she was doing shares and she was really enjoying it.
It's brilliant. It's, you make so much money.
I said, oh, very nice. People who've got money, they can do it, so she do. You don't have to have a lot. A couple of weeks after she rang up, I went and had a coffee at Lynn's house. She was started on again about the shares.
If you know what you're doing, you can make quite a lot of money.
And I just said, well, you know, I can't afford to lose the money that I've got. So she said, oh, you know, if it doesn't work out, if they don't shares go down, that she would pay me out of her money.
You're right. Oh, could I have a glass of wine, please? Thanks. You got it. Now, obviously, the longer you invest the money, the better return you'll get. All right.
She gave me a receipt. I made her sign a piece of paper that she'd had my money. And that was it. I just seemed to be waiting in for her for nearly 12 months to bring the money.
Hold on a second. It's Jack. He says your money's on its way. Can I speak to him? Hello? Oh, he's gone.
And maybe I'm naive, but I just didn't think people did that to a friend.
I've known her for 19 years. From when the children were little, that's how I got to know her. And we've been friends since then.
I was grateful because she was a good friend to Carol, when Carol really needed it, when she was on her own.
Hi, Carol. Been looking for you. Get in the car. Let's go for a drink.
I bought the drink, which when I think about it now, you know, I thought it was really comical. Like,
If I can make some money for your mum, I mean, that would be great. Why don't you give her a call, see if she wants to invest it? Hi, Irene.
So she said, honestly, you've known me all these years, you know you won't lose your money. If I can do you a favour, I will do it for you. Because she said, Carol's such a good friend.
I can guarantee you £2,000 back.
I never saw her again. It was only through phone calls. She was phoning up and saying, I'll have the money for you.
Carol, can you hear me? It's Lynn. Yeah, I'm away with Jack on holiday at the moment. As soon as I get back, I'll come round with the money and I'll put it in a carrier bag for you, love.
I used to stay in, but she never came. She never turned up.
All right, love. Look, can you hear me? Can you hear... Carol, I can't hear you.
How can a friend of 20 years do that to you? I mean, I don't know of a closer friendship that two people had as Lynn and Carol.
Mrs. Wright was due to attend court, facing a number of serious deception charges. She failed to turn up at court, and that the magistrate issued a warrant for her arrest.
But Lynn had vanished from Wrexham, so the case was brought to Crimewatch. In fact, Lynn was hiding out at a caravan park in Wolverhampton, and someone who knew she'd been on the programme decided to call the police. Lynn Wright served 8 months of a 20-month sentence. None of at least £50,000 she conned from friends has ever been recovered. Invariably, it's the people who can least afford to lose money who end up on the receiving end of criminals like Lynn Wright. Or Joseph Casser. He made a career out of ripping off the elderly with a lottery scam, until you helped put him in prison.
I think the worst thing about this particular crime is preying on elderly and vulnerable people, your mums and your grannies. And you can't get much lower than that, but he didn't worry. He would phone up pretending to be the nephew or grandson.
Hello?
I know, Nan.
Is that you, Brian?
Yeah, of course it is. Sorry I haven't run for a long time.
Listen, Nan, I've got some news. I don't know if I should tell you.
Oh, I'm going to tell you. You're sitting down.
What is it?
I've won the lottery. 2 million quid.
I'm up at the lottery office. I'm so full of
Fine.
champagne.
I mean, I know it don't sound like me.
But it certainly is.
And from then on, he would ring off, phone back again.
Hi, Nan.
Brian again.
Oh, hello, Brian, love.
Listen, Nan, I've done something really stupid.
I've left my cards at home. I can't believe it. I wanted to get Dad something.
I'll see if I can get someone here to lend me some.
Hello?
He planned it well. He just didn't pick on any old crime. He put a lot of thought in this and carried it out with a very successful rate.
Hello?
Hi, Nan. It's me again, Brian.
Oh, hello, Brian, love. How are you getting on?
I've got someone to lend me 150 quid, but I don't want to go all the way back to the lottery office. Can you borrow me any to pay him back? I'll send a cab for it.
I don't know about that, Brian. I could let you have 80. It's all I've got left of my pension.
It's not enough, Nan. I need a bit more than that.
I could give you 20 from the rent.
All right, it'll have to do.
And he'd tell them to put it in an envelope and we'd send a minicab down to pick it up. And the minicab driver would turn up, pick up the envelope and then take it down to the East End.
If you're a minicab driver in East London...
When we phoned Crimewatch, I wasn't sure what I was going to get. I mean, really, I wanted to warn these elderly people that this sort of con was taking place. And I wasn't expecting somebody to phone in and give me a name.
And that name was Joseph Casser.
And also I was surprised just the amount of calls that came and showed that how many people had been conned in the same way and were too scared or too traumatised or were too embarrassed to report these crimes. We got a search warrant and went down to Casser's address with other officers. We forced the door.
Please!
And on the first floor we found Casser in bed. He was arrested and then we searched his address. After his arrest, up to the time he was at court, we never had one more reported crime of this sort. So his involvement in this crime at all. The evidence was overwhelming. I never believed him, the jury never believed him, and he was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment.
Crimewatch tells it like it is. There's a lot of crime and it causes a huge amount of grief. But there's one positive thing you should be aware of. Crime is falling, and it has been for many years. Now, if that sounds like government propaganda, the drop in crime started under the Conservatives and it's been more or less consistent for a decade. If crime is really falling, how is it that almost nobody believes it? The reason is the spin put on the figures by journalists who are looking to make headlines. Take murder. Over the last year, it seemed to rise alarmingly. In fact, for the first time since records began, they've counted over 1,000 homicides. But that's largely because of the activities of the GP Harold Shipman. 172 of his murders that took place over many years have all been lumped together in the latest figures. We're told in the papers that violent crime is rising alarmingly, but that's largely because of a change in the counting rules. For the first time in the latest figures, police have been required to record every assault that's reported to them, even where no one's been hurt. It's not all good news. Detection rates are still hovering at only about 25%. But car crime is down, burglary is down, street robberies, that's muggings, are down. All the most common crimes are down. But of course, none of this is the slightest consolation if you're one of the victims. And in serious crime, that often just means being in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is precisely what happened in our next case on Crimewatch Solved in Liverpool.
They put me in an ambulance and took me to Western Hospital. And my dad and my girlfriend was waiting there.
This is Andy, mate. All right. This is Mark.
We don't usually go down that end of town. We usually go up the other end of town, but just for the change, though, we go that way, like.
What are you laughing at?
Not you.
Have you got a problem?
No.
Just turn around and forget it.
Things were getting heated, and the waiter intervened and asked all four to pay and leave.
Oh, come on, let's get out of here. I was just getting fed up with arguing with him, so we just decided to get off. And we thought it was nothing to worry about, like.
But the man at the next table had other ideas and used his phone to summon reinforcements.
They were running towards us. I felt like a bang on my hand. It was only when I pulled my hand up I realised what had happened.
Yeah, Roger.
Report of a male having his hand severed.
Yeah, take that, it's horrible. And he's bleeding to death.
It was obviously a serious matter. It was unusual. And one of the things was that it wasn't drug dealers, it wasn't so-called gangsters. The victim, Mark, in this case, was a reasonable lad who'd been to work that day. He'd gone for a couple of pints with his friend and then decided to go for a meal in the restaurant. 4 months passed and we still have not traced the female, any of the attackers, or in fact the vehicle. And we went and approached Crimewatch. The press strategy was to appeal for the female to come forward. I felt she would be known and she would be the weakest link in terms of she was not involved in the attack itself. We got certainly 2 very significant calls which mentioned the female as being Melanie, and more importantly, mentioned that her boyfriend, Danny Gilmore, was actually serving in the army.
Right, that's brilliant, boss.
The tip-offs were anonymous, but the information was so good that Merseyside police went round to search Melanie's home.
Yeah? What do you want?
I'm DC Wilson. This is DS Davis. I've got a warrant to search the premises. May we come in?
When they actually started searching her bedroom, a significant piece of evidence was found in her own personal diary, and showing on the 5th of November was an entry to say that she'd been for a meal, she was with Danny, and also the word fight. The other significant piece of evidence was photographs.
The photos showed Melanie, her boyfriend Danny, and his friend Sean Campbell. Sean turned out to be the man with the sword. Danny Gilmore first, though. Police contacted the army and found he was at a barracks in Canterbury. In fact, he was on remand to be court-martialed for vehicle offences. Detectives set off to see him.
Okay, thanks for letting me know, like.
Isn't Gilmore on court-martial?
You're joking. We'll have to turn around.
What's that?
He got out.
We believe he'd been tipped off of our imminent arrival by friends or associates up here in Liverpool.
Melanie was the girlfriend of Danny Gilmore, and she had a conflict of interest, so she was arrested to give her side of the story. She gave an account that she was in the restaurant and that she was with Danny, and also that a phone call had been made to a man who she knows as Cambo, which was actually Danny's mate.
That's a cracking tune, that. There they are.
What have you done?
I ran after one of the lads with the bats, but never got him.
Sean Campbell had never come to the police notice prior to this incident. He was only 18 years of age. He denied from the outset ever being involved in the attack.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate.
Melanie was now a valuable witness for us, and we needed to take a full statement from her. The concern was raised by a couple of the officers that Danny, now at large, may make contact with Melanie and therefore would disrupt the evidence gathering that we were hoping to achieve. So officers were sent out to her place of work to actually collect her, to start taking a statement from her. Unfortunately, when she came out, she got into a car before the officers could see her and drove off.
Melanie was actually on her way to meet Danny Gilmore. Police followed her.
Hey there, mate. Hey, get off me, I haven't done anything.
Danny Gilmore, I'm arresting you on suspicion of wounded on the 5th of November 2001.
On the 16th of May at Liverpool Crown Court, Sean Campbell received 8 years youth custody, which will be a prison sentence when he is 21. And Daniel Gilmore received 21 months for an offence of affray, but with other matters, including fail to appear at court, 30 months in all.
This is Mark, he's 23. He's
Hi,
been
Mark.
assaulted tonight, bleeding with a sword.
Mark has made a recovery as best he can. He has use of his right hand, not full 100% use. He still has difficulty with his thumb and one of his fingers, and he will need future operations. But he went back to work in January, and I think the biggest satisfaction is that now Mark can put this behind him.
Oh.
Of course, it's not just the reconstructions that get results. Over the years, we've shown hundreds of faces that have had thousands of viewers reaching for the phones, and often there are really big stories behind these pictures. Here's a case we featured last month. It started in a pub in Lincoln where an 8-year-old boy was watching this man playing the slot machines.
What are you doing?
Just trying to win some money.
Can I play? And if I win,
Can I keep it?
You're not allowed. But I'll give you some money if you come to the toilet with me.
You what? What do you want me in there for?
I'll show you. Come on. I'm not going to hurt you. Just come with me. Follow me. Go in. Do you want to do it for £5?
What do you want? No, just let me go. Mum! Mum, there's a mayor over there. He took me into the toilet.
It may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Get off, you're hurting me. Get off, you're making a big mistake. Look, my wife's there. I'll be all right, love. I'll be all right. Don't worry.
He had identification on him in the name of Kirk Williamson. He had no previous convictions that we knew to at that time, and we had no reason to disbelieve that he was who he said he was.
So you're sticking to your account?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you've not said to this 8-year-old lad, do you want to have sex in the toilets for £5?
Honestly, I'm being truthful here. I'm completely and utterly heterosexual. I've got kids of my own. There's no way I would ask anybody for sex or even pay for it, especially with a male.
Kirk Williamson was bailed because we hadn't got the victim's version of events on video, which is what we needed due to his age. And he was bailed for 2 weeks to come back to the police station.
Kirk Williamson had been in Skegness with his family on holiday, but promised to return as part of his bail conditions. When he failed to turn up, they checked on his home address in Kent.
Good afternoon. May I speak to Mark Spearpoint, please?
Speaking.
Hi, this is DC Dawn Shoveler from Lincolnshire Police. I'm ringing to ask if you can help me trace a bail no-show who's given us an address in Deal, Kent. It's Mr. Kirk Williamson.
We've just interviewed and bailed a David Bright using the name of Kirk Williamson for credit card fraud.
Fraud? Well, we're after him for an indecent assault on a minor.
Kent police had also let him out on bail, but now went round to his home address. It was empty, but his landlady had given them a key.
I'll check upstairs with you, Steve.
Yeah, hold on.
It became clear that he had done a runner. He had taken his family and all his belongings. I found a photograph of him and his family, and fortunately an old bank statement which had DC Bright written on it. I made inquiries with the bank into DC Bright, and the information that came back was that of a David Charles Bright and a date of birth. With that information, I then researched the police national computer again, and bang, hey presto, we had the details we wanted. It opened up a whole new side to Mr. David Bright.
You'll see that his real date of birth is the 29th of July, 1965.
Bloody hell.
I was a bit horrified, really, at the thought of what on earth has this gentleman done before.
You'd realise you'd been duped by a clever man, and you were onto him.
Another traveller also somewhat confused about his name, David Charles Bright, Kirk Williamson, David Hall, or, well, maybe now it's something else. Whatever you know him as, colleagues in Lincolnshire want to speak to him about deception and indecency offences. He may be living with a woman and her 2 children, so it's urgent we find him. Now take a look at Henry. Oh, God.
It was a normal evening, really. Watch Crimewatch. We always watch Crimewatch. I don't normally like to watch it on my own. And his picture came on, and I was really stunned, and I thought, can that really be the man that I was with, you know, the previous weekend at a birthday party? And I thought, my children were there and other children were there that I knew, and I felt sick that something could have happened to them.
Within minutes of the calls to Crimewatch, the search moved from Kent to Sussex. Just after midnight, police arrived at an address in Hastings.
What are you banging on my door? What's going on?
What's your name?
My name's Simon.
And could you open the door and show us some identification, please?
Yeah, come in. I might have a few bits in the kitchen. I've got a few papers in the drawer here. What about this? It's got details of my wife in it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay, but have you got something with your photograph on it?
Yeah, I may have something else.
David Bright?
Yeah.
Mr. David Bright, I am arresting you for failure to appear for bail in Lincolnshire for indecent assault. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which you may later rely on in court, and anything that you do say.
No comment.
He then went into the toilets and you allegedly grabbed him, pulled him into the cubicle and locked the door. Do you remember that?
No comment.
You then said to him, will you let me do it with you for £5? Do you recall saying that?
No comment.
The boy then got upset and again you said to him, will you let me do it with you for £5?
No comment.
As a result of people ringing in from Crimewatch, David received a much higher sentence. He would have received possibly 5 years for my offence and possibly 5 to 7 years for DC Spearpoint's offence. But as a result of some more victims coming forward, as a result of Crimewatch, he received life imprisonment.
I think it's definitely been worth coming forward. I'm glad I did. I never did it for a revenge point of view. My motivation was to put him in a place where he couldn't be hurting other children. I think David targeted me probably because I was already vulnerable, actually, and I think I was probably an easy target.
Go on, have some beer. Not gonna kill you.
He never forced it. He never forced me. He used things to make me do things and would use guilt against me. But he did it in such a clever way that I never really disliked him. The strange thing was I still wanted to keep the contact going, although I didn't want anything to do with the physical things that had happened. I actually still wanted his friendship.
David Bright is just one of many sex offenders who've been convicted this year, thanks to calls to Crimewatch. In fact, over the last 8 months alone, he and 10 other sex offenders have received a total of 179 years and 17 life sentences. And that's all as a direct result of viewers responding to appeals. But if a suspect doesn't plead guilty, the victim will have to appear in court, and that can mean reliving years of abuse. But 3 women did give evidence against the 2 men who raped them. Both cases were featured on Crimewatch, and both men ended up in the dock because of calls from viewers.
The thing I was most worried about was how I'd be treated by people in the court, by his barrister, how he would react on me. Things like that, really, that was really worrying me, whether I'd have the guts to go through with it. My nan was there, she was there to support me. I felt hard for her because I wasn't sure how she was going to cope with it. Like, having to listen to what her granddaughter had been through and stuff. I had to recount everything from every last detail. That was the worst thing, having to face him and go through everything again in front of him. On the night it happened, I was walking to a friend's house and he pulled up. I carried on walking by and he'd flagged me over. I walked over and I was talking to him through the passenger window.
Trying to find the garage on Fish Ponds. Any ideas?
Just go straight up. And he was talking to me as if he knew my family. And I thought that he was a friend of my mum's.
How's your mum? I heard she had a little baby.
How did you know that?
Ah, I've known your mum for years. I tell you what, when you get in, show me the garage and I'll give you a lift to your friends.
He got her into the car by conning her, if you like, or tricking her, for want of a better word. He approached her and he said that he knew her mum. She felt safe with that, and so she got into a car.
Look, you've just gone past the garage.
The attack was a serious sexual assault, one of the worst kind. It was that's a rape. During the rape, she sustained a fractured humerus and broken collarbone. She was examined by a police doctor. Certain swabs were taken from her. Those swabs were analysed, and it was then that DNA was found on some of those samples. Those samples were put in our database, and the name of Martin Williams came upon the database. We had his mobile telephone number. We thought we'd ring him up, which we did. He was extremely angry, frustrated man.
Yep.
We asked him to hand himself in to the police. He didn't. And I thought, what an ideal opportunity to put out to Crimewatch and use the public to locate Martin Williams for us.
And have you seen this man? He's Martin Williams, and he's wanted in connection with the abduction and rape of an 18-year-old girl in Bristol. Williams is a lorry driver, and we're fairly confident he's been travelling around somewhere in the country in a white Renault Arctic, just a tractor unit. Its registration number is P834RWR.
We had one phone call telling us that he was in a certain street in a Staple Hill area. By the time the police actually arrived at that street, all that was there was his lorry. Martin Williams was on his toes, but we took his lorry from him instead.
All clear.
One day we had numerous phone calls saying it was at a bed and breakfast. We deployed plainclothes officers to watch the address. They saw him leave the address, get in his car.
Clothes officers that had followed him. All they needed was one last positive ID before an arrest could be made.
And it was then they called to strike.
Strike, strike, strike.
And with the assistance of our uniformed colleagues, he was arrested at an Esso garage in the Avonmouth area.
Martin Williams? My name's Colin. I think you're Martin Williams. I'm arresting you on suspicion of abduction and rape, OK? You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned, something which you're later on in court. Do you understand that?
When I saw him, I can't even explain my reaction. It was like he was just staring at me, all smug, and like he was like happy with what he did, and just felt disgusted with him.
Why did you consent to getting into the car with him?
When his barrister got up and spoke, it was for ages, and he was asking the same questions over and over again, just in a different way. And some of the words he was saying I didn't understand, so I didn't understand the question, and I was all in the state as it was anyway. And
what made you enter that vehicle of your own free will?
I didn't think I did very well, but apparently I did.
She was a star. She sat through the trial. She was patient beforehand. She turned up at court and she gave the evidence. She told the truth of what happened that day.
Martin Williams was found guilty and sentenced to 15 years in prison. The woman who gave evidence showed amazing courage, and so did two other rape victims. They helped convict Glyn Kenyon, whose photo was shown on Crimewatch, and who abused and terrorised them for 15 years.
People first found out anything was happening when some kids off the estate found some black bags in the back garden.
The bags, mistakenly thrown away, contained documentary evidence of the grotesque secret life of two abused young girls.
It was constant sexual and physical abuse throughout childhood, growing up into late teenage. The police became involved and we moved away and Glyn disappeared. I was worried that maybe he'd gone and hooked himself up with another family and, you know, was starting all over again with somebody else's children.
All avenues of police investigation to trace Kenyon had drawn a blank. The only alternative that I could see was an appeal on Crimewatch.
These three men are all wanted for serious sex offences against children. Glyn Kenyon could be doing stonemasonry or casual building work.
We received a phone call from a viewer in Blackpool, a Mr. Neil Walls, who knew where Kenyon was.
I knew of him because he lived in the same property where I used to live. He lived upstairs in one of the bedsits. I've always thought, what would I do if I'd seen somebody that I know? And obviously I did, and I phoned up. Somebody came from Blackpool police station. He just happened to be out. They asked me where he worked, told him that he was, as far as I knew, he worked on a market, Bonny Street Market in Blackpool.
Glyn Kenyon, I'm arresting you on suspicion of rape and assault.
It was really amazing. I just remember I was at work and I got a phone call saying he'd been arrested, and I just bounced all around where I was working. It was really good to hear that he'd been arrested eventually. Well, he pleaded not guilty to everything, and it was expected. Knew he would, because he always said he would. It just meant that I was going to have to go to court. I did think about not giving evidence. I said quite a few times I'm not going, but at the end of the day, when it came to it, I just looked at it as though it was something I had to do.
The girls had to describe every offence that was committed by Kenyon in open court, and it took a great deal of courage for them to be able to stand before a jury, barristers, solicitors and the defendant.
He'd always been powerful, and it was like reversed now. You know, he was a pathetic little man sitting in the corner, and I was the one everyone was listening to.
Because of the strength of the girl's testimony, the judgment was overwhelming, and Kenyon was given 16 life sentences.
It was just amazing to hear so many sentences could be handed down at one time on one person, and that these people I'd never met in my life had believed everything I'd said. Physically, I've got scars, but they go away. You can hide them. They go away. Don't have to think, don't have to see them all the time. But it's not bad. It's not too bad.
And the story didn't end there. Glyn Kenyon got a further life sentence after his DNA was matched to an attempted murder on another woman.
But this programme does end here. There were many more cases which Cause to Crime which have helped solve, but too many for us to include in one programme. But join us next month to help solve some more.
Crimewatch is back, in fact, next month on Wednesday, September the 24th. Till then, don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.